Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your Weinsburg Carahome. It's on the 2016 Fiat Ducato chassis. So under the bonnet just here we've got lots of the kind of sundries, if you like, sort of the refillable bits and pieces over here on the left hand side. The washer fluid over in the corner, power steering fluid is this one just here, engine coolant and the brake fluid. You can get to the brake fluid and the washer fluid there, but you do need to take this little cover off here if you want to get to the coolant or the power steering fluid. Engine oil gets topped up through here, and you can see nice clean oil there, no sort of, you know, gunkiness in there, so there's no water in there, which is good. Engine oil dipstick is the red topped one just here at the front. Your chassis plate is this one just here, the one that says Naus Tablet up here. The one that the original Fiat Group one here is 3650, and when it was converted into a motorhome it would have been converted down to 3.5 tons so that you can drive it on a standard car license. Your Fiat white colour is 210, so that is the white colour on the cab, which then goes through onto the back end of the vehicle. So Fiat white 210. And the last thing I tend to run through under the bonnet is that on every Fiat Ducato chassis from 2007 onwards, the engine battery sits under the floor in here in the cab. So it sits underneath this little cover here. So if you want to jump start the van, you do have to go, well, you don't have to, but if you don't want to have to take the floor up to get to the battery, you can jump start it with a positive terminal just here under this little flap. Positive there, and your negative or your earthing point is this little prong here, and it does say that there, ground only for jump start. So you can jump start it from under the bonnet, that's why they are there. So inside the passenger door you've got the bonnet release handle just here, and more than likely, there you go, your leisure battery down here underneath the passenger seat. So really nice and easy to get to. If you should ever need to get to that, that's where it is. Diesel filling point just inside here as well, behind this nice little cover. Just going to carry on this near side. So we've got the freshwater filling point, Frischwasser, if you can speak German. Probably didn't say that right, but that's what that means. So you take that off nice and easily just by pushing in and turning to the left. And to lock it back up again, push in and round to the right until it stops, like I've just done there. And then pop the key in, if you choose the right key in and twist it, take the key out, and now I cannot take that out. So to unlock it, do the same again but in reverse, in and round to the left, push in, and then it's out. So that is how you use that. So this particular layout is really helpful in that you've got this sort of section down here. So this particular little cupboard isn't really for storage or anything, but it is a really helpful little locker for various things really. So you've got, on the left hand side is your freshwater drain off point, so that's in the closed position holding the water in. We've then got next door to that the wastewater drain off, which is in the open position, so I've just drained all the wastewater out onto the floor. Next door to that is this little thing here, which is your boiler drain off. So if I wanted to drain the boiler out of water, I would twist this little piece at the top, and if you watch this little blue button at the bottom, blue button pops out, turn that back to where it was and press the button back in. Alright, so what will happen is, this is an automatic drain off valve. Alright, so what will happen is, when it gets to a certain temperature, around sort of 3 or 4 degrees I think, that will happen. This will twist and it will pop the blue button out. So it will drain all the water out from inside the boiler to save you from, you know, having a frozen boiler and, you know, having to fork out for a new one. So that's why that will happen. So if you want to close it back over again so that you can fill it back up, you just need to do what I did there. Turn it back to where it is now and push the blue button in so that it looks like it does now. We've then got the hookup point So that's where you plug your hookup cable into. You can run it up through the floor, through there, and plug it in like that, so that your hookup cable actually comes underneath and into the vehicle like that, so that there's no separate plugs on the outside and you can't take it out without having the locker open. This is your Truma boiler vent, so I've got the boiler lit up on gas at the moment and I can feel hot air coming out underneath this, and that's the way that you double triple check this definitely working. We've then got the toilet cassette locker. So the toilet cassette is a nice new modern one. So to use this, you push up on this little sort of yellowy tab down here, and that'll then allow you to pull the entire thing out. All you need to know really is that you've got the drain off point for it, so to actually empty it out is just here at the front, and that when you're draining it out you should really be holding down this little yellow button at the back whilst you do that, just to sort of release any pressure that might be inside the cassette. So that is that. You've got a freshwater flush, so you haven't got any separate flush fluid to worry about. So as long as you've got a little bit of fresh water in your tank, you'll be able to flush the toilet. This closes over like that. And then to lock it up, I'll get the right key out. To lock that up, twist this just the once and push it in. So to unlock it, we go the other way around, twist it, and then it will open. Alright, so twist it, push it in, and that's locked. Right, so at the back of the van, we've got your reversing camera up there. Window just here because you've got the bunk beds at the back of the van. The window's there for that reason. Because it's got the bunk bed layout, that means that you can actually lift this bottom bunk up and use it as a big garage. They do give you this really nice sized garage door at the back, so that you can get sort of, you know, bikes in here, you know, whatever you like really. So, you know, you're not going to be restricted on how tall something can be in here, but you might just be a little bit restricted to the width, depending on what it is you're trying to get in it really. You can see at some point in the past somebody has had something in here because they've had, obviously you've got this rubberized floor and the mounting points here, so probably bicycles I would have thought. To put the bunk down, you've got these little leather straps. So you've got one here and one at the other end. Once you've released those, this will just fold over and then make back up into the bed really, really quickly and easily. But for the time being, we've left it in the upright position. Carpets just there. I can imagine they're probably for the cab. And then just various little bits and pieces that the previous owner has left. These are screws for sort of like tent poles, but for the awning probably. And the awning winder is just here. So most of those awning bits and pieces are in the back locker there. We've actually got, just noticed, the little bit of fabric that you can see on the awning there. The name of it is just run away from me. I did have it in my head just then, but basically that's a little sort of adapter that you can have to put a drive away awning onto this awning. So I'll try and remember what that was and do the video, but that already being there is a really big help, because if you did have the, you know, a different style of drive away awning, then that's the adapter that you would need. So there you go. Anyway, right, so the gas locker here, you have got space in here for, well, by the looks of it, I mean, I don't know without actually doing it, but you could probably fit one 13 kilo propane in here, or you could have two of these 6 kilo propanes. Or if you wanted to use butane, you can fit two of the 7 kilos. I would always stick to propane as much as you can, because especially if you're going to go away somewhere a bit cold, butane doesn't work, or very, very much struggles to work, anywhere around sort of 3 or 4 degrees. Around that sort of number, butane will struggle, whereas propane will work right the way down to minus 40, no problems whatsoever. All to do with their boiling points and things like that, but there you go. Right, so at the moment you have got on the actual pigtail hose here, product date 2022, so you've got till 27 to replace this. It's not really a law thing, but it's just something that's a recommendation, really, highly recommended. Unfortunately, funnily enough, the LPG gas does actually eat away at the rubber. over the years. So, you know, even if this was a 5-year-old hose, it probably wouldn't look much different from the outside, but it would be a lot more perished than it actually is. So to turn these bottles on, we go anti-clockwise around to the left, that turns the bottle on, and clockwise around to the right turns it off. So for the minute I'm going to leave it on because I've got the boiler lit up, and I just want to show you a few bits working. But in all honesty, that is it. It is always advised, please don't cover up this hole, and in fact, in all honesty, just try your best not to put anything in here apart from gas, because if we, you know, on a habitation check, it should be failed for, you know, the gas locker. If there's anything else in here apart from gas bottles, it should be failed. So but this is your gas dropout hole, so this will go straight out onto the floor, which means that if there is a gas leak in here, because gas is heavier than air, it will sink down and it will go out and go down the dropout hole. So definitely don't cover this up, which is why they've put the bottle over in the corner. The regulator itself, you haven't got to do anything with that. That's all just literally for our testing purposes. This little bit here is just a test point. So when you run out of gas in this one, you need to switch over to the next bottle. Just undo this nut just here and put it onto the new one. It's easy as that. So you've got these two lockers just here. So, not lockers, sorry, vent covers. These are both to do with the fridge. So if you ever needed to get to the back of the fridge for any reason, you can do so just by pulling these off. They literally just, you pop these little pieces up like that, and then it will just lift off. So if I just jump in the cab now. So the cab itself, you've got a really nice high spec cab in here, 35,000 miles from new, so it's barely run in, to be honest with you. As I said, you've got the reversing camera up there, nice and neatly fitted. Doubled in stereo just there, which comes on with the ignition. The 6-speed manual gearbox just there, and your air conditioning switch from the middle just there. You've got the cruise control functionality on here, on this bottom stalk. Your indicators and lights are on the left-hand stalk there, and your washers and wipers are on the right. You've got the electric adjusting mirrors, so you just select which mirror you want to move, and then basically just move this around like a little joystick as and when you need to move them around. You've got, because it's the more modern one, you've got a couple of USB sockets just there, cup holders down there, which is another thing that's a modern difference. Okay, so I think that's about it for the cab, really. So what I'll do, I'll just point out as well, you've got this down here, this little cover here, which is literally just these two screws at the top. That is the sort of, if you have any issues with any sort of 12-volt stuff in the cab here, this is your fuse box for the majority of the things in the cab. There are a couple of other fuse boxes under the bonnet, but they're generally speaking more kind of engine related stuff, whereas this one here is, you know, if you had a problem with your cigarette lighter or something like that, or some 12-volt power in here, it's going to be related to something in there 9 times out of 10. Right, so if we jump in the actual van now, get onto the more interesting bit. So the control panel for the whole vehicle is just here above your head as soon as you walk in. And I will say, I've not actually used one of these before until just now, and it's probably my favourite control panel I've ever used. I think it's so easy, but so, you know, well laid out. So what you've essentially got is, you've got a little light over here, which will tell you when the hookup cable's plugged in. So if you had the hookup plugged in, that would be lit up there. And this one over here is telling you that the pump has got power to it. All right. Now the pump in this vehicle, like most German, Italian vehicles, is a submersible pump. So it's a pump that physically sits inside the tank in the water. All right. So the way that submersible pumps work is every single tap or anywhere that needs water in this vehicle has got what's called a micro switch inside of it. So you probably won't be able to hear it on the video, but I'll just try it. Maybe. The very, very quiet clicking noise is basically when I lift up the tap there, it's opening up it's closing the circuit so that it basically creates a circuit for the pump. So what that means is that instead of having an inline pump like a lot of other vans do, there's no real pressure around the vehicle at any time. Because inline pumps work on pressure, they will not turn themselves off until they're at, say, 15 bar of pressure, or whatever it is that they work at. Not bar, but it would get up to a certain pressure and turn itself off. Whereas with this one, because it's submersible, it doesn't work like that. It physically won't run until you lift the tap up. All right, which means if there's a leak somewhere, your pump isn't going to just purge and purge and purge and get water everywhere. If there's a leak somewhere, you'll see it very briefly, and that'll be about it. All right, so that's the big plus side to a submersible pump. It also, generally speaking, is a lot easier to work with. Well, saying that, it is and it's not, but the water tank will be just under this seat just here, I should think, unless there's any access to it just here. Let me just have a quick look before I start telling you porkies, which I have done. So, right, under this little cover just down here, so you've got, let me just make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, so this is your waste tank. The black tank here is your waste tank. So you have got access to that if you want it. Usually for the waste tank, it's just a case of emptying it when you need to empty it. The fresh tank is slightly more important. Now you have got a drain on the outside, which I showed you a minute ago. But if you wanted to get to the pump, I can show you it physically now. So there's your pump with the blue top on it. And as I said, it literally just sits inside the water there. So if you ever need to get to that pump, that's where it is. Nice and easy. You literally just take off this little nut here and you can pull the whole thing out. So very, very easy if you ever needed to get to it. Obviously, give us a shout if you do have any problems. But there you go. Right, enough about the pump. So that's telling us that the pump has got power going to it. And I will show you how to do that in just a minute. You've then got on the left-hand side here, voltage scale between 11 and 13.5 volts. That's going to be telling us the voltage in either the engine battery or the leisure battery, which again, I'll show you how to check in a minute. And we've got the water level over here on the right, so from 0 to 100. Now, at the moment, we're hovering over the main on and off switch, which is why it's coming up telling us that the pump is switched on. If I go once to the right, we then hover over the fresh water level. So that's showing us we've got half a tank in the fresh tank. Scroll once more, and then we're showing the wastewater level. So that's empty. Because as I said, when we were outside, I've literally just drained the wastewater out. That's showing us that the level is correct, so it's empty. If I go once more to the right, we hover over the water pump switch. So now if I press that, this little light goes out under the water pump. And if I go back up to the main button there, you can see the pump switch has gone out. It's gone, it's not lit up anymore. So now when I come to the tap here, you get a little bit of residue come through, but the water will stop. All right, so that pump is now completely shut off. So if I want to turn it back on again, I'll go 1, 2, 3 to the right. That then hovers over this one. Press it, we get the light come on, and now when I go back to the middle, we've got the pump switch on and it will bring the water through. Okay, if we go to the left, it will show us, well, once to the left, comes up showing us the leisure battery voltage. I know it's leisure battery because it's showing us the battery in the back end of the vehicle, so that's 12.5 volts, that's absolutely fine. And the vehicle battery voltage, 13. Okay, so that is the control panel. Really simple, but really nice and clear. On that note of the battery voltage, I will just point out that you've got the solar panel up here, which has been fitted. So that is wired up to both leisure and engine batteries. So both of those batteries will be getting a charge at all times, basically. Anytime there's sunlight on the roof, both batteries are going to be getting a little bit of charge going into it. All right, to the left of the control panel, we've got this little thing here. This isn't a button, so please don't press on it, and especially don't press on it very hard because these are prone to breaking. It's actually always a bit of a miracle when you come in here and these aren't broken. This is your thermostat for the boiler. All right, so anytime that you want to use the boiler from here, this is the, this is where it takes its temperature from. So if, for example, the only reason I'm sort of letting you know that is if you've got the door wide open, I mean, this might sound really stupid because, it's, if you have the door wide open, probably don't have the heating on. But if you do have the door wide open and it's going to be getting cold air going to this, you're going to get an incorrect reading up here on the boiler controls. All right, but that might be a little bit self-explanatory to you because obviously, like I said, you probably shouldn't have the door open if you've got the heating on anyway, but there we go. Right, so it's a Truma iNet ready system. Okay, I'm just going to try and stop my hand from shaking so much on there. So Truma iNet ready is basically just the more modern Truma system. It's the same combi boiler pretty much as it has been forever, but it's just a much more modern set of dials really. So all the time you're on this little home screen here, it'll be telling you what's going on. So it's telling us right now that we've got the gas on here, so we're using the boiler on the gas, and the water is heating up on eco mode. And it's flashing at us because it's actually working and doing it right now. So if I come to the tap now, I mean, I've had it on for what, probably half an hour, 10 minutes before we start the video. So let's just see. I mean, I know obviously you can't feel this. I'm aware of that, but yeah, there you go. So that's coming through nice and warm already. That's just started coming through warm now. So half an hour is how long it's taken for that to get warm on eco mode. So if you imagine if we had that on, high or something like that, or boost, it's going to take a matter of 10-15 minutes or so to get hot. So that's really, really good actually. The older boilers did take a little bit longer to actually get going, but there you go. Right, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to just turn this off so I can show you how to use it from the from scratch. So once we've I'm going to leave this to go off, right? So this is the main screen. So when you press this button here, this is what comes up. Press it again, and then you get onto this sort of like menu section, okay? And what you'll find is that when you're hovering over something, that's the one that you're sort of ready to click on, all right? So this one that's flashing is the one that we're hovering over, and that is the heating inside the vehicle. So it's off at the moment. All I've got to do is scroll up and basically get to a temperature which is above the temperature that this thermostat is taking. So if I press that there, I'm pretty certain that'll start working. So now it's telling us up here, we've got the heating on gas. And also that the fan is only set to 1. So I can turn that up to high if I want to. And then what that means is any of these little circular vents that are around the vehicle, like that one there, that one down there, there will be one in the bathroom as well, I should think. Somewhere. Yeah, there you go, over there. They're now going to be pumping around hot air at a high speed. Okay, so I'll turn that fan back down to eco, and actually I will just turn the heating off because I don't want it on. So that's how you use the heating. If I want to use the hot water, I want to get the water hot, you got eco, hot, or boost, as I said, and I'm just going to leave that on eco, just get it hot properly. And as I said, we're on gas, and it's telling us at the top now we've got hot water on eco, on gas. The next one over, this one here, is telling the boiler what energy to use. So at the moment it's selecting gas. Mix 1 is a mixture of gas and 240 volt electric. Mix 2 is a mixture of them both but a little bit more electric. Electric 1 and electric 2. So if we had the electric hookup plugged in, we can use it just on electric if we want to. So that's about 4 amps and about 8 amps. Or if we've only got gas like we do at the moment, we can just leave it on gas. All right. You can then go through and change the clock, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, don't know exactly what the time is right now, probably around 3 o'clock, but we can do that probably later. But that's how you use the Truma iNet system. So basically, if it's a day like today where I certainly don't want the heating on, but I might still want hot water, I might just select the hot water system. If it's the other way around and I don't want any hot water, but I just want heating, you can do that. Or if you want them both on, there you go. So they can take a little bit of getting used to how to use those little Truma iNet systems, but in all honesty, once you've got the hang of it, and once you've grasped the fact that basically if I have the hot water on and I wait for I can let the screen go completely off, which it will do in a couple of seconds, and even when the screen's off, it will be telling us what it's actually doing. So let that go off. Typical that it'll take longer than there you go. Right, so that's the screen sort of in its like standby position, and even now it's telling us what it's doing. So it's heating the water up to hot on gas. All right, so if you're worried, if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'm not sure if the boiler's actually doing anything, or I'm not sure if it's off, all you've got to do is look up here. If there's something going on up here, it's on. So you just go through, turn it off, and that's it. If there's nothing going on up here, it's off. You can also, if you want to, press and hold in the middle, and it'll come up saying off. And that is completely switched off then, if you want to do it like that. Right, so you've got the 3-burner hob just here. You have got an ignition for all 3 of these burners. So you do need a 12-volt power to be switched on in order to have that ignition working. So push in and round whilst pressing on the igniter to get any 3 of these to light up. You have got what's called a thermocouple on each one of these burners, which is this little prong of metal just here. And what that does is it senses the flame when it's there. So some people, you can call them a flame failure device or a flame sensing device. So for example, the reason that they do that, if I just show you an example here. So I've got the flame lit up now. That thermocouple has recognized that flame there and has allowed the rest of the gas to carry on coming through, and it will allow it until this flame gets blown out or something. So if I blow it out, the gas is still coming through, and the thermocouple will eventually stop it. So we listen. So that is exactly what I wanted to happen there. So what happened was I blew the flame out. I physically blew it out. And then I'm just going to open this window a little bit because it carried on a little bit longer than I wanted it to. I lit that up and I blew the flame out. So if you imagine, if we had that window open and it did the same thing, if the wind blew that flame out or whatever, you cannot physically fill this fan up with gas. All right, because the flame failure device or the thermocouple will recognize that the flame's gone out, and it will switch the gas off for you automatically. Right, every single gas appliance in this fan has got a working thermocouple on it, because we have to go through and make sure that they definitely work. But that's what a thermocouple does. That's just the easiest way to show you what it actually does. Okay, and of course as well, you will get a little bit of gas coming into the van because it takes a few seconds to work, but there you go. Okay, so in this top drawer here, we've got your 3 gas isolators here. So we've got the 3-burner hob, the boiler, and the fridge. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from any 3 of those appliances, turn it 90 degrees so it's laying flat rather than vertical, and that will have isolated the gas from that specific appliance. Okay, so now that I'm not breathing in all that gas anymore, I'll shut the door. That's a bit of an extreme example, really. You know, if that had happened in normal life, you probably would have recognised that and just turned it off yourself anyway before it even had a chance to turn itself off. But there we go. Okay, so the fridge. This is a nice modern fridge. So Dometic. I wouldn't be surprised if they've, you know, Weinsburg or Naus, who own Weinsburg, were building these. They're probably doing a bit of a deal with Dometic, because I think Dometic's, I think, yeah, they make them as well. Yeah. So the toilet cassette, the fridge, everything is Dometic, so it's not a bad thing. Right, so the fridge itself, really easy how you actually use it. So straight away that's flashing at us, and it's flashing red because we don't have the engine running. So we can't use it on the 12-volt function at the moment. So the only way I can use this fridge at the moment is gas. Right, so as you probably just heard, the gas lights itself up and then switches it to, it carries on burning basically. The igniter comes on, it lights itself up, the igniter turns off and it carries on. So that's all you have to do to light it up on gas. Alternatively, you can press the A button over here and it will select one of the 3 functions here for you automatically. If you have the electric hookup plugged in, really you should have this switch here on. It will start flashing at us again because there's no hookup plugged in. Okay, so we've got 240-volt electric, or your hookup, gas, and engine running 12-volt. All right, or automatic, as I said. So if you what's the best way to say this? So the easiest way to explain it is, if you were going to go on holiday tomorrow morning, really you need to pre-cool this fridge before you leave. And the reason for that is that the 12-volt here, the one that you need to use when your engine's running, all it really does is hold whatever temperature you've already put into the fridge. So it will keep it cold. All right, it doesn't get the fridge cold by itself, certainly not on one of these stack style fridges, which is the biggest fridge they do, or one of. So you need to pre-cool it before you leave. So either switch your gas on and turn it on gas here and leave it lit up overnight or whatever, or for a good few hours in the morning, or leave it hooked up and use the mains over here. And then all you need to do is switch over to 12-volt here when you start driving off. That's flashing at us without when it flashes at us without a red light, it's telling you that the fridge door's open, by the way. Just so you know that. There you go. So all the time that you've got a little blue light in there, you're all good and it's working. So hopefully that makes sense. If I just briefly explain as well. So with the 12-volt functionality, the way that works is you've got what's called a split relay or a split charger in this van. Now what a split charger does is, probably hence the name, it splits the charge that comes from the engine's alternator and sends a little bit back to the leisure battery and the fridge. So that all the time that you're driving, the engine is physically charging up the leisure battery and giving you a little bit of signal to the fridge. So when you get to wherever you're going, the leisure battery is going to be fully charged and you can keep the fridge cold whilst you drive. That's the reason that you have to select the 12-volt switch. You have got the seat belts behind here, loads of paperwork inside this brown folder here, and obviously a huge massive great overcab bed up there with the ladder for it there, which I'll just put up for the minute. Oop, I can do it with one hand. Okay, just whilst I show you in the bathroom here. So bathroom is also quite clever in the way that it's sort of laid out, designed. If I can find the light switch for in here, that would be helpful. There you go. So there's a little switch just underneath here for the lights. You don't want to see my face. So yeah, a little bit of vanity unit up there, if you want to call it that. This sink area is quite clever. So you've got this little pulley over here. When you pull that up, I mean, I've only got one hand at the moment. I'll try and do it. Pull that up. There you go. Pull that up, and then you can push this whole sink over. All right. I think you can carry on pushing it further, but I can't do it with one hand. But basically the sink system there pushes all the way over to the side so that you can get to the toilet nice and easily. Let me just put you down for a second. There you go. So that now is pushed all the way over to the side there, so you can still get to the toilet with plenty of space. So to flush the toilet, you've got the button over here on the right hand side, which flushes the actual toilet just there like that. And then you've got this pulley at the front, which drains it into the cassette. So closed by pushing it back in, open by pulling it out. And that is it. So once you're done there, you can pull this back all the way and then use it as a normal sink again. You've also got the shower cubicle there with the closing plastic doors there, and a skylight above your head there as well. It's for a little bit of ventilation. I'll turn that light off. There you go. So, I think I've pretty much covered everything I can. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.